Everyone has a mental health story or knows someone who does. Seeking help should be easy and not a financial burden. So let's talk. In today's video, we shine a light on the universal nature of mental health experiences. Our guests from the National Alliance of Mental Illness, or more commonly known as NAMI, open up about their personal journeys and explore the present and the future of mental health.
So it was okay to do that and to prioritize my health and well-being.
I invite you to break down the walls of silence and stigma surrounding mental health. Seeking help is not a sign of weakness, but a courageous step towards healing.
Had this thing called a panic attack. At the time, I didn't even know what was it called.
As we navigate through the stories from the board members of NAMI Miami, we hope to inspire open conversations, foster empathy, and encourage individuals to reach out and support each other. Mental health is a shared human experience, and together we can build a more compassionate and understanding world. Can you share a bit about your personal connection or experiences with mental health?
My journey with mental health, it's funny because when I was looking into taking this position, I thought, well, I don't have professional training in mental illness or mental health, so what do I have to offer? But then I thought a little further about my own treatment for depression that I have had off and on throughout my adult life, and substance use disorder. I'm 20 years sober, proud to say that. And I lost my younger sister to suicide. My older sister had a mental health condition, personality disorder, and she was homeless and lived on the street for many years. That's a little bit about my connection. So it turned out, when I thought about it, wow, I have quite a connection. And if I can be helpful to other people, then I want to be able to do that.
In 2015, I lost my dad. I spiraled into a depression, but I didn't know it was a depression. I knew something was wrong because I was more energetic. I was that person that was always involved and engaged in things in the community. At one point, I stopped living. I was just existing.
And from the time that I was in middle school, pretty much until the end of college, I was dealing with a few different things, including self-harm, disordered eating, and just in general feelings of hopelessness.
So going to a school in Indiana was a big shock for me. So I was dealing with issues of also with seasonal affective disorder because it was very gloomy there. There is no sun for most of the year. So I really wasn't prepared for what the effects of that would look like.
My personal journey with panic disorder and anxiety disorder was something that came out of the blue. I knew something was wrong, didn't know what it was. Had this thing called a panic attack, which at the time I didn't even know what was it called. It was a little bit foreign to me. I just didn't know what was going on, and from there on, I went through the journey of getting help.
I remember growing up, I was a very anxious child. And I come from a Hispanic family, so whenever I would share that I have some anxiety, I like to tell this, and it sounds like a joke, but it's not. They will tell me to go outside. So it was very hard to share that I was having any type of mental health struggle.
I have mental health and substance use disorder on both sides of my family, so it's very near and dear to me. Personally, I live with anxiety and depression. Joining NAMI has been part of my recovery. It's a place where I can come and find support and resources. And I think nowadays we need much more than just clinical counseling and medicine. We really need peer support. We need community support. And NAMI is one organization where I find that I'm not alone and I feel like I belong.
Collaborating with other organizations and within the community is one of the most important things that we do at NAMI. Our goal is to help reduce stigma. We work with youth, and we do that through collaborating with the schools and collaborating with youth organizations. The collaboration brings trust. And if they feel they can trust you, then they can hear you.
One of the things that's so great about fundraising events is that you're pulling in all of these different groups, whether it's schools, whether it's sponsors, and you're trying to let them know about your cause because, yes, you're trying to fundraise, but you're also telling them about your mission. And one of the beautiful things about NAMI is that everything we do is free. So the minute I'm like, yeah, I'm doing this fundraising event, but it's for mental health and everything we do is free, the reaction totally changes. People's eyes literally light up. And so now when you talk about mental health, people get really excited because they're like, oh yeah, I've been there and I've dealt with it, and they're more willing to share.
How can we foster a more inclusive and compassionate future in mental health advocacy and support?
There's always a way. Just be there and support. Sometimes just to listen. I can't expect everyone to have an answer to the solutions, but sometimes for me, it was just to listen and to acknowledge that I'm a person with lived experience. These are some of the things that I may go through, and sometimes that's all you need is for someone just to listen.
I started experiencing a lot of these symptoms when I was really young. I used to think I was such an intense kid when I look back, and I couldn't understand, I'd ruminate in a lot of negative self-thought, even as I remember kindergarten, right? I'd make a mistake and I would just oh, you're so dumb, you're so stupid. And I would repeat that to myself really early on. And I didn't realize that wasn't normal. I didn't realize that was a sign that there was something really wrong, or that I was dealing with something larger than myself, because I was I don't know why I'm so sad all the time. My life is not bad. Or my parents are doing everything they can to make sure I have a happy and healthy childhood. So it felt like I was being ungrateful. If we had ETS when I was in middle school, that would have saved me.
Have you experienced or seen the therapeutic benefits of creativity, and how would you encourage others to explore this?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So in 2019 was our last film festival that we did. So this was a film festival completely focused on mental health, only showing short films that portrayed different perspectives, whether it was from the perspective of someone who was personally dealing with the mental health condition, or if it was coming from a family member who was watching someone they cared about go through something. So many people showed up for this film festival, and it was pre-pandemic. So this was before we had this little mental health revolution that we've been experiencing. And 1,000 people showed up, and they were so impacted by these films that we received probably the largest influx of volunteer applications that we've ever received at NAMI. I still see people wearing film festival shirts from 2019. And then going back to the walk, we know studies show that going for a walk is actually good for us, that going outside, moving, being in nature, this is linked to positive mental health benefits. So when we're at the walk, you can see the joy of everyone being together, and then everyone walking kind of just links everyone together even more, links them even more to the mission. So I think that any way that you can bring in movement, mindfulness, creativity, art, these are all amazing ways to heighten the impact of what you're trying to do.
I think you're going to hear this answer often. It's by telling our story. I think it all starts by sharing. We need to connect. And the only way that we can connect is by sharing what we're going through, sharing our stories, our mental health struggles, what we have gone through, our ups and downs. Mental health, the same as physical health, is not linear. And if we open up about that, we realize that we're all in it together.
We have support groups where people living with mental health conditions can talk to each other, so they don't feel like they're strange or they're weird or they're an outlier. And family members can talk to each other and share their experiences, and again, build a network so they don't feel like this is a shameful thing that happened in my family, but there must be something wrong with us. I felt that way for a long time. I wouldn't tell people that I lost my sister to suicide. I was ashamed. Now I think more about what she must have been feeling and how hard that must have been for her. So I think that changes perceptions.
Well, first of all, you need to know where those areas are. NAMI has already identified our underserved communities through various resources. Once you identify those communities, you speak to the gatekeepers, you speak to your principals, your pastors, your politicians, and you first inform them that you have resources that are available for people in the community.
I think during the pandemic, we saw a spike in people with mental health concerns, but the reality is that spike was always there. Just people started feeling more comfortable coming out and talking about mental health, And so it became more in the forefront. And they said, well, due to isolation, due to the pandemic, people are coming forward. But reality is it was always there. It just became more normalized.
If people have to pay out of pocket for something that is already kind of difficult for them to come to terms with, it's just another barrier. It's just too difficult. And so it's incredibly important, especially to reach those communities where stigma is still very much alive and well, to make sure that programs are free, that mental health services are accessible to everybody, regardless of their background, regardless of language barriers and age.
Being actually just kind to yourself. I think the way we talk to ourselves and how we treat ourselves is very important. And too often, I feel like we kind of just lose ourselves in the grind of the everyday.
I think the best way to create a more compassionate future for mental health is for people to speak up about their experiences, to not be afraid to share, I'm having a bad day, I need time, my anxiety is really bad today, so I'm just gonna need a couple minutes, I'm gonna take a break. So being able to do that, and I know that can be scary at first, but I've noticed in my time doing that here, it really immediately breaks down barriers with people. So we can really create these small inclusive spaces for ourselves and change the environments that we're in that very small way. And I think that will catch on, and we can see a lot of massive change too with that.
It's important to talk about it. I really believe for those of us who have been affected by mental illness or by people close to them that have a mental health condition, to openly talk about it. Because when you talk about it, then that gives other people permission to talk about it. And once those stories are shared, that stigma starts to break it down, and you can even treat it with humor. You too? Really? That's a lot what we do.
If you're struggling with mental health, remember you're not alone. Don't be afraid to reach out to the National Association of Mental Illness or any other type of support. Join us on May 18th for the NAMI Walk. I'll be there, and we'd love to see you too. Let's walk together for mental health awareness.